What do you do when your mother-in-law and her ex-favorite daughter-in-law are determined to ruin your life, crossing every line just to make you feel worthless? The smell of fresh coffee lingered in the air as I walked into my favorite coffee shop, unaware that it would be the scene of yet another confrontation. I'd been married to Michael for 2 years, and after 4 years of being together, I thought I'd endured the worst of his family. But that evening, everything changed when I entered the cafe. Karen, my mother-in-law, and Ashley, Michael's ex, were sitting in wait. Before I even had time to react, they splashed their coffee all over me. The shock left me frozen, but as the sticky mess dripped down, one thing was clear. Their behavior had gone too far. My mother-in-law has been inviting my husband's ex to every family event to undermine me, and it all came to a head when they tried to celebrate their anniversary. For some context, I'm 28, and I've been married to my husband, Michael, also 28, for 2 years. We've been together for 4, after dating for 2 years prior, but we've actually known each other since high school, though we didn't start dating until a couple of years after college. I met Michael unexpectedly at a restaurant. We exchanged numbers, went on a few dates, and here we are now, almost 4 years later. Before me, Michael had been with another girl from high school, Ashley, who was a grade below us. She and Michael had been together since middle school. We weren't close back then, but we had mutual friends, so I saw a lot of Michael and Ashley together. After high school, I lost touch with him because he went to college in another state, and we didn't really see each other during that time. When we met again at the restaurant years later, I asked him about Ashley. He told me they'd broken up about 1.5 years before. Apparently, she was the one who ended it because she wanted different things and needed a break to explore the world. However, she planned to come back to him someday, essentially wanting to be single for a while, see other men without guilt, but keep Michael around as a backup option. So, even after their breakup, Michael and Ashley stayed in touch, but he kept the contact to a minimum. By the time Michael met me, he had pretty much moved on from Ashley. I'd started seeing him in a new light, too, since he had grown a lot from the guy I remembered from high school. We became friends easily and quickly, and over time, we built a laid-back, easygoing relationship, something Michael had never experienced with Ashley. She had always played games, making him chase after her to boost her own self-esteem. She'd flirt with other guys, go out with friends, and not check in on him for days, without considering how her behavior affected him. He stayed with her for years because he was young and foolish, and he thought he had to make the relationship work just because they'd been together for so long. One of the biggest issues, however, was his mother, Karen. She absolutely adored Ashley. They'd met countless times during Michael and Ashley's relationship, and whenever Ashley visited, Karen would fawn over her, praising her to no end. From what Michael told me, Ashley did the same, showering Karen with compliments to win her approval. They'd gossip together, mostly about Michael's other female friends, which he hated, and sometimes even talk about Michael's aunts and cousins. Ashley was also very conventionally beautiful, which made Karen like her even more, for reasons I still can't fully understand. After their breakup, Michael asked his mom to stop inviting Ashley to family events, but Karen refused. She claimed she and Ashley were still friends, and since they were close, she saw nothing wrong with having her over for dinners or gatherings. Even after I started dating Michael and was introduced to his family, Karen and Ashley's friendship continued. In the beginning, I felt weird about it, and I still do, but there's a reason I've been putting up with it for so long. The first time Michael brought me home to meet his family was for Christmas 4 years ago. We'd been dating for quite some time then, almost 8 months. Ashley was also present there, and she was downright horrible to me the entire time. She was picking on my looks, my height, my outfit, my makeup, and whatnot. She was clever enough to make it all sound very humorous, like she was just joking. But Michael knew what she was trying to do and tried to stand up for me. However, Karen shut it down and directly asked me if I had a problem with Ashley's jokes, putting me on the spot. I knew that if I said that I wasn't okay with it, they'd make it seem like I was insecure or something, and put me down even more. So I decided to put on a strong front and said, "I don't care." Instead, it was petty of me, but as soon as I said it, I saw them look surprised and irritated, so I knew that I'd done the right thing. Once Michael and I came back home, he apologized to me for the way Karen and Ashley had behaved and told me that he'd make sure his mom didn't invite Ashley anymore, but I'm the one who told him not to do that. I knew the kind of women they were, and I didn't want to lose to them, if you know what I mean. I didn't want them to believe that they'd intimidated me or made me feel insecure, because they hadn't, and I felt like I had to prove it. So, I explained it to Michael as well. He was surprised by my opinion on this, but he didn't interfere anymore after that day. So far, every single family gathering that Karen has hosted, Ashley's been there. Every time they behave the same way with me. Snide remarks, backhanded compliments, or constant attempts to bring up Ashley's past with Michael, even when there's no need, just to make it awkward for me. I've faced it all with a brave face and have tried to remain as unfazed as I can. Karen has even mentioned several times that Ashley was the daughter-in-law that she would have preferred and would have been the better fit for Michael as a wife. Indirectly, it was annoying, but I tried to remain unfazed because as long as Michael was by my side, I didn't really care what they said. So Karen and Ashley could yap on forever, and it wouldn't make a difference to me. That's how I've been dealing with this for the last 4 years, and I plan on having the same attitude for the next 4 years too. I wasn't going to be the first one to snap, and that was for sure. Now, coming to what actually happened, and the incident that brought me here. So 3 days back, Karen celebrated her 49th birthday, and every year she celebrates it with all her family and friends. This year, Michael didn't want to go and instead wanted to attend his coworker's engagement party, which happened to be on the same day. He had valid reasons because his coworker would only get engaged once, and he was really close with him too. But Karen forced him to promise that he'd attend her birthday party instead, and wore him down after some days. So, we decided to go to that party instead. Like every other event, Ashley was invited too, and she dressed up to the nines for some reason. Even Karen was overdressed, but at least it was her birthday that we were there to celebrate. Michael and I had decided that we were going to leave after Karen cut the cake, and then go to the engagement party. So, at around 5:30 in the evening, my father-in-law brought out the cakes, and we were surprised to see 2 cakes because one of them said, "Happy Almost Anniversary." Michael and I didn't know what the other cake signified, and neither did anyone else, so we waited for the birthday girl to explain. Instead, it was Ashley who took over the reins and, to our surprise, grabbed Michael by the arm and brought him to stand by her side. We were both too shocked to do anything because he was suddenly thrust into the spotlight, and everyone was looking at him. Ashley began to speak up, recounting a memory from nearly 10 years ago. She said that on Karen's birthday, Michael had gotten down on one knee and given her a promise ring. They were both 18 at the time, about to head off to different colleges. Now, 10 years later, she was still wearing that ring, proudly showing it off to everyone present. She then gave Michael an awkward hug that he didn't return, while Karen cheered them on, saying how she willingly let them steal her thunder to celebrate what could have been. The whole situation was so absurd that Michael and I just stood there, speechless, like everyone else in the room. For a few minutes, no one knew what to say in response to the ridiculousness of it all. Ashley kept going on, making jokes about how Michael was her almost husband, and Karen her almost mother-in-law, calling it their almost anniversary, as if we were supposed to get the joke. Karen then cut the anniversary cake, first feeding it to Ashley, then trying to feed it to Michael. That's when Michael snapped out of it and backed away from her as she brought the slice toward him. Karen looked surprised and asked him what was wrong. That's when the situation exploded. Michael started shouting at both Karen and Ashley, finally letting years of pent-up anger spill out. He called them delusional, self-absorbed, and low, and told them how ashamed he was to have been involved with Ashley and how disgusted he was to be related by blood to Karen. He went as far as calling them both the trashiest women he'd ever met. I was shocked Michael, who's normally so calm and collected, was absolutely furious. I'd never seen him like this, but Karen and Ashley had finally pushed him too far. After his outburst, Michael stormed out of the party, and I followed him, both of us leaving for his coworker's house instead. During the cab ride there, I tried to talk to him about what had just happened, but he told me he didn't want to discuss his mother and ex right then, so I respected his wishes and stayed silent. At the next party, He seemed to improve in mood, chatting with friends and coworkers, and by the time we returned home, he was doing much better. I decided to bring up the events from the earlier party again, thinking he might want to talk about it. But instead, I got an earful. Michael admitted that yes, Karen and Ashley had tried to humiliate me with the cake incident, but he also pointed out that I wasn't completely innocent in all of this. He said that for years I had forced him to stay silent and put up with Karen and Ashley's behavior because I wanted to prove to them that I didn't care, that I could be indifferent. But in doing so, I had forgotten that Michael was just as involved in this mess as I was. It wasn't just Karen and Ashley making him suffer, it was also me, because I hadn't been paying attention to how he was feeling throughout all of this. He didn't expect anything from his mother or his ex, but he did expect more from me. And in his eyes, I had let him down by putting my own feelings first over his. That night, I argued with him and told him that he was being way too harsh and unfair to me, but now that I look back on it with a cooler head, I do think he had a point for forcing my husband to stay quiet for years while his mother invited his ex to family events to put me down. Update 1. Okay, so I apologized to Michael this evening. I read the comments, did a lot of introspection, and talked to a couple of my friends about this too. I came to the conclusion that I was in the wrong here, and whatever he said that day was true. I had been putting my feelings above his own, and was so busy acting like Ashley and Karen's behavior didn't bother me that I didn't even stop to think that maybe it bothered Michael. For his sake, I should at least have let him put an end to this if he wanted to. I made him put his own feelings aside for years so that I could win some sick mind game with people who I didn't even like, and in doing so, I jeopardized the one relationship that matters the most to me. I screwed up badly, so I knew I had to compensate for it. Michael had been giving me the cold shoulder since the day of the party, and I also had been trying to act like it didn't affect me. It's a thing that I've always had, and it's been a problem forever because my response is to just always pretend that things don't bother me even when they do. I want to be perceived as nonchalant and unfazed by anything, so I act like that and bottle up my feelings, which I now realize is a really unhealthy coping mechanism. I definitely need to work on this if I want my marriage to work, but today, I skipped work and decided to get him dinner from his favorite place, along with a chocolate cake that said, "I'm sorry," on it. I came home, set it all up, and made it as romantic as I could because I know he's a sucker for sappy rom-com apologies. Also because I was just very sorry about everything I put him through unwittingly. He came back home in the evening after work and was very surprised to see what I'd arranged for him. He'd forgiven me within 15 minutes of his arrival. We had a teary reconciliation, and I ended up crying because I was so scared that I'd lose him over this when he wasn't speaking to me. We talked things out, and everything's better between us now. Since I acknowledged my screw-up, I explained to him my constant need to be perceived as someone who's chill and laid back, someone who's nonchalant, basically for no reason other than it looks cool, and because I don't want to be vulnerable around people. That's the real reason behind this entire mess. He understood and respected the way I acknowledged it and said that I'd work on it instead of just pushing it all down and bottling my feelings up. He also apologized for being rude to me, but I don't think he needed to do that. He did it because he's a good man and because he loves me, which really makes me think that I've won in life. After we were done with dinner, we finally spoke about and addressed what had happened the other day with Ashley and Karen. I hadn't heard from either of them after the party, and after my fight with Michael, it had all been driven out of my mind anyway. However, Karen had constantly been texting him to make him apologize to Ashley, who was allegedly inconsolable and overcome with grief because of the way Michael had behaved with her. I had to try really hard not to roll my eyes when I was reading the texts that Karen had sent my husband to guilt-trip him into apologizing to that woman. Karen was trying to make it seem like the cake and the whole almost anniversary gag was just that, a joke, and there was nothing that they were implying with it. But I called BS on it. This is a married guy that we're talking about here, and surely they'd have enough brains to realize how inappropriate and disrespectful this was to me. They went ahead with it because they wanted to humiliate me at the party, so they couldn't just write off our feelings by saying it's just a joke and that Michael had taken things too far. The audacity to even suggest that Michael and I had taken it too far and had disrespected them with that outburst and our walkout was just laughable. Michael had been ignoring her texts anyway, and today, after I saw those texts, we officially decided to go no contact with her. We'd had enough of her nonsense and wanted no part of this anymore. Update 2. 3 days ago, Michael and I blocked Karen on all our social media. He also told his dad that he didn't want to speak to his mother anymore. His dad respected that because he understands Michael's feelings, but he also refuses to interfere now since he loves his wife and knows that he can't leave her, so he's staying out of this completely, like he has for the past couple of years. I'm not on board with my father-in-law's behavior, but I can't help it either. Everything was going well for the past 2 days, but today, Michael suddenly called me out of the blue and said that he had to head to the hospital as soon as possible, because apparently his mother had fallen from the top of the stairs and fractured her leg. His maternal uncle had been the one to inform him, and he left as soon as he heard. Michael and I reached the hospital that his uncle had mentioned at around the same time, but before we could even enter, Karen stopped us in our tracks, and she was completely fine. She and Ashley had ambushed us in the parking area of the hospital and told us that this was the only way to get Michael's attention because he'd blocked them everywhere. My showing up was something they hadn't accounted for, but they just ignored me and went on talking with Michael completely normally, as if they hadn't done anything wrong. Ashley tried to explain to him that whatever she'd done at the party had been a prank, and she didn't intend to offend him, while Karen backed her up. Michael heard them out for a while, and then told his mom and Ashley to fuck off right to their shocked faces and walked away once more with me. When we tried to get into our respective cars, Karen started screaming at us, but we didn't wait around to hear her out. I'm sure she was cursing us out, but it didn't matter because she lied her way into seeing Michael again, and I couldn't imagine anything more manipulative than that. Michael went back home from the hospital because he was too stressed, but I had to go back to work. While I was at work, I received a text from a number I didn't recognize, and it happened to be Karen. She screamed at me for 15 whole seconds before I managed to disconnect the call. I'd just been caught off guard while working, or else I wouldn't even have answered the call. All I heard was selective swear words at the highest volume. I don't know why she was mad at me because I didn't have anything to do with Michael's behavior. She'd pushed her own son to that extent, not me. Anyway, I blocked her and tried to get on with my day. And finally, when I got back home around 6, I got to speak to Michael. He told me that he'd also blocked the rest of his relatives who were close to his mother, along with his uncle now, because it was clear that she'd go to any lengths to get him to forgive them and talk. That's all we can do right now because it's not like they're threatening us in any way, and neither are they consistently stalking us or whatever, so a restraining order is out of the question anyway. Michael has talked to his dad and told him about what happened today, but he still refuses to intervene. It's his choice, and Michael loves his dad, so I'm not saying anything right now. But I don't think the way my father-in-law is acting is a great example of being a good father either. The least he can do is at least talk to his wife and stand up for his son, but he refuses to do even that. Michael loves his father, but the man has never once stood up for him when it comes to Karen. I've only kept my mouth shut out of respect for their relationship. Or else I'd have a lot to say about how his entire family is just ridiculously stupid people who literally never think of anything except themselves. How a man like Michael is a part of a family like this, I'll never understand. Update 3. Hey everyone, just wanted to update you all on what happened. It's been a week since my last post, and yesterday, Michael and I made the decision to file for a restraining order against Karen and Ashley because of something they tried to do to me. So, 3 days ago, it was a Thursday, and as usual, I stopped by my favorite coffee shop on my way home from work to treat myself to a frappuccino. But this time, as soon as I entered, Ashley and Karen, who were sitting there waiting for me, approached me with their cups. Before I even had a chance to react, they both splashed their coffees in my face. And just to make matters worse, Ashley grabbed some whipped cream from her cup and poured it into my hair. I was completely stunned. I froze in place, trying to process what was happening. But thankfully, the baristas quickly rushed over to help me clean up. They were amazing, stopping everything to assist me, and even the other customers waited patiently while they helped. The mess left me sticky and covered in coffee stains, and my hair was a mess, but with the barista's help, I was able to get cleaned up, although I couldn't salvage my clothes for work. Some of the customers checked in to make sure I was okay, and one of them even asked if I wanted to call the police, which I did. I reported the incident and pressed charges. Sadly, it was just a misdemeanor, so Ashley and Karen only received a fine and got away with nothing more than that. It didn't really harm me physically, but my clothes are ruined beyond repair. Still, we pressed charges and it's now on their record, which might help down the line. Michael wanted to make this more public, to post about it on social media so that more people would be aware and avoid Ashley and Karen, but I just wanted to move on from it. Honestly, that whole experience really shook me up. It may sound silly, but it made me realize how dangerous things could have gotten. They knew my routine from my social media. They knew my address if they had wanted to. They could have hurt me much more seriously than just throwing coffee in my face. It could have gone way worse. On a positive note, Michael and I have been doing well financially, and we had already been thinking about moving. After what happened, we've definitely made up our minds to move. We also had been talking about starting a family, and we plan to begin trying soon. But one thing's for sure. My in-laws will never meet our kids. As for my father-in-law, he refused to intervene after the coffee incident, so Michael had a huge argument with him and decided to cut him off. Honestly, I'm relieved that I'll never have to see or hear from any of them again. What would you do if your in-laws openly tried to humiliate you, not just once but repeatedly? Would you stand your ground, or would you let it slide? The situation with Karen and Ashley had been escalating for years, with passive-aggressive behavior from both of them directed at the wife of Michael. Despite Michael's attempts to shield his wife, he was pushed to the edge during Karen's birthday party when Ashley tried to bring up their almost anniversary, an event meant to publicly embarrass his wife. Michael snapped and finally stood up for himself, exposing years of frustration. Looking at this from a relationship perspective, Michael's outburst was a moment of emotional release. However, it wasn't just about defending his wife. It was also about years of pent-up emotions and the realization that his mother and ex were toxic influences. His relationship with his mother had always been strained, but this situation made him confront it head-on. It's crucial for couples to not only stand by each other, but to recognize when external influences are harming the relationship. Michael and his wife had to decide stand by and let this abuse continue, or take action and protect their future. Do you think Michael should have confronted his mother and Ashley sooner, or did he handle it in the best way possible? How would you have responded if you were in his shoes? If you've faced similar manipulative situations, it's time to take control of your own life. Like this post, subscribe for more real stories, and share your thoughts in the comments. How do you deal with toxic family members in your life?
The silence at our family dinner table felt like a noose tightening around my neck. I watched my sister's mascara-stained tears roll down her cheeks as she delivered the performance of her lifetime. Skylar deliberately sabotaged my wedding. She knows Virgil and I need that loan, but she's just jealous because I'm getting married first. My name is Skylar, and in that moment, I realized how quickly family loyalty can crumble like a house of cards. "Kendall, honey, that's a serious accusation," Mom said, reaching across the table to squeeze my sister's hand. Her wedding planning binder lay open between them, pages of magazine cutouts and price quotes scattered across the mahogany surface. "It's true," Kendall's voice cracked. "She has the money. She just doesn't want to help me have my dream wedding because she's always been jealous of me." I set down my fork, the grilled chicken on my plate now cold and forgotten. "That's ridiculous. I explained why I couldn't give you the loan. You and Virgil already have 3 maxed-out credit cards and—" "See?" Kendall interrupted, gesturing wildly. "She's trying to control my life just like she always has." Dad cleared his throat, his weathered face creased with concern. "Skylar, sweetie, couldn't you help your sister out? It's her wedding day we're talking about." The betrayal hit like a punch to the gut. "Dad, you know I've helped her before. The art supplies for her studio, the rent when she couldn't make payments." "That was different," Mom cut in, her voice sharp. "This is her wedding. Family supports family." "I am supporting her." I pushed back my chair, standing up. "By not enabling more debt. The venue alone is over $50,000. The flowers she wants are imported from Holland. The dress—" "Stop trying to make me look bad," Kendall shrieked, mascara now completely ruined. "This is exactly what she does. twisting everything to make herself look like the responsible one. My phone buzzed. A text from Elliot, my fiancé. "How's dinner going?" I couldn't bring myself to respond. "I can't believe you're all buying this," I said, looking around the table. "Kendall, you know exactly why I said no. We discussed this privately last week." "Private discussion?" Mom's eyes narrowed. "So you've been plotting this for a while?" "Plotting? Mom, I'm trying to be responsible. Someone has to. The only thing you're responsible for is trying to ruin my happiness." Kendall stood up, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "You've always been jealous that I'm more creative, more spontaneous, more in debt?" The words escaped before I could stop them. The room fell deadly quiet. Dad's fork clattered against his plate. Mom's face turned to stone. "Get out." Kendall's voice was barely a whisper. "What?" I said, "Get out." She grabbed her water glass and hurled it at the wall behind me. It shattered, water streaming down the cream-colored paint. "Kendall." Dad stood up, but his stern look was directed at me. "Skylar, I think you should leave." I looked at Mom, hoping for support, but she was already moving to comfort Kendall. "How could you be so cruel to your sister?" she asked, not even looking at me. My hands shook as I gathered my purse. "I can't believe this. You're all enabling her." "Just go," Dad said firmly. "We'll talk when everyone's calmed down." I walked to my car in a daze, the warm summer evening at odds with the ice in my veins. As I sat behind the wheel, I could see them through the dining room window. Mom and Dad huddled around Kendall, comforting her, while my empty chair sat like an accusation. My phone buzzed again. Elliot. "Hey," I answered, my voice cracking. "That bad, huh?" "Worse." I started the car, desperate to get away from the house I grew up in. "They think I'm trying to sabotage Kendall's wedding because I won't give her a $100,000 loan." "What? That's insane. Want me to come over?" "Please." I pulled out of the driveway, catching one last glimpse of my family through the window. "I'll pick up some wine on the way home." "Already ahead of you? And Skylar?" "Yeah?" "You did the right thing. Someone had to say no to her eventually." As I drove home, my sister's accusations echoed in my head. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was the realization that my family would rather believe a comfortable lie than face an uncomfortable truth. But as the anger settled into determination, I knew one thing for certain. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. She's done this before, you know. I scrolled through my phone, showing April the screenshots of Kendall's previous financial requests. We sat on my apartment balcony, the evening breeze carrying the scent of jasmine from the planter boxes Elliot had helped me install. 3 times just this year? April leaned closer, wine glass dangling from her fingers. "Girl, that's not sisterly love, that's a pattern. Remember the art studio fiasco?" I swiped to an older message. "She swore she'd pay me back in monthly installments. Want to guess how many payments I received?" 0. Bingo. I set my phone down, reaching for the wine bottle. And now she wants $100,000 for her dream wedding. The same sister who couldn't manage to pay back $5,000. April straightened up suddenly, her eyes sparkling with that look I knew meant trouble. "So why don't you show her how it's done?" "What do you mean?" "Your wedding. Move it up. Show her what a beautiful celebration looks like without going into crushing debt." I nearly choked on my wine. "Are you crazy? Elliot and I weren't planning to get married for another year." My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Your sister's been crying all day. I hope you're happy." I showed it to April, who rolled her eyes. "See, this is exactly why you should do it. Stop being the family punching bag and show them what grace under pressure looks like." The sliding door opened, and Elliot stepped out with a plate of cheese and crackers. "Show who what?" April practically bounced in her seat. "Tell him your brilliant best friend's idea." After we explained, Elliot sat quietly for a moment, then smiled. "Actually, I love it." "You can't be serious." "Why not?" He took my hand. "We're already engaged. We've been saving. And unlike some people, we know how to budget." And, April cut in, "I happen to know the perfect venue just had a cancellation for 3 months from now. The coordinator owes me a favor from that charity event I planned." I stared at them both. "You're actually serious about this?" My phone buzzed again. This time a group text from Kendall to the entire family. "Trying to figure out how to have my special day without my sister's support. At least I know who really loves me." Something snapped inside me. You know what? Let's do it. April squealed and hugged me. Elliot squeezed my hand. But, I added, we do this right. No debt, no drama, just elegant simplicity. Speaking of drama, April said, pulling out her laptop, how are you going to handle the family situation? We invite everyone, Elliot said firmly. Take the high road. I nodded slowly. Kill them with kindness? More like slay them with sophistication, April grinned. I'm thinking garden ceremony, fairy lights, live string quartet. As April typed furiously, making lists and sending emails, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. This wasn't about revenge. It was about showing my family what true love and responsibility looked like. My phone rang. Dad's number. Should I answer it? I asked. Elliot nodded. Remember, high road. Hi, Dad. Skylar. His voice was tired. Your mother and I have been talking. We think you should apologize to your sister. I watched a hummingbird dart between my flower boxes. I'm not apologizing for being financially responsible, Dad. Sky. But I am planning something that might interest you. I met Elliot's encouraging smile. We're moving up our wedding. It's happening in 3 months. Silence on the line. You're all invited, of course. Even Kendall. I'll send the invitations next week. This feels reactive, Dad said carefully. No, Dad. This feels right. I hope you'll be there to walk me down the aisle. After hanging up, I looked at my best friend and fiancé, my real support system. Think we can pull this off? April was already deep in planning mode. Honey, we're going to do more than pull it off. We're going to create something so beautiful, so genuine, that it'll make your sister's expensive fantasies look hollow. I should feel bad about that, shouldn't I? Elliot pulled me close. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just living your best life. Besides, April added with a wink, sometimes the best revenge is just being happy. As we spent the rest of the evening planning, I realized something. My sister's betrayal had given me an unexpected gift, the courage to stop seeking approval and start creating joy on my own terms. And if that joy happened to prove a point, well, that was just karma doing its thing. The garden looks perfect, April declared, walking the path between the rose bushes at River Meadow Estate. And with the pergola here, we can string lights all the way down to create a natural aisle. I touched one of the white roses, still dewy from the morning mist. It's beautiful without being obnoxiously extravagant, April finished. Exactly. The venue coordinator, Marie, approached with a tablet in hand. So the ceremony will be here in the garden at sunset, then we move inside to the glass conservatory for the reception. The nice thing about this space is it barely needs decoration. Nature does most of the work. As we discussed details, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Found Kendall crying over your wedding invitation. How could you schedule your wedding so close to hers? I showed it to April, who snorted. Her wedding that doesn't even have a date yet because she can't afford a venue? Ladies, Marie called, want to see the conservatory? The glass-walled room took my breath away. Sunlight streamed through the panels, creating natural spotlights on the hardwood floor. Climbing vines framed the windows, and a grand piano sat in one corner. We can fit 12 round tables comfortably, Marie explained. The dance floor would be here, and Skylar? I turned to find my cousin Marley standing in the doorway, wearing the venue's staff uniform. You work here? I asked, surprised. Assistant event coordinator. She smiled, then hesitated. I saw your name on today's tour schedule. April and Marie tactfully wandered off to discuss lighting options, leaving us alone. So, Marley said, I heard about the drama with Kendall. News travels fast. Actually, Marley glanced around before lowering her voice. You should know something. Kendall and Virgil came to tour this venue last month. When they heard the price, Virgil started yelling at our manager about highway robbery. It was pretty embarrassing. I leaned against a nearby table. Let me guess. They wanted special treatment? Worse. They tried to name-drop your parents, claiming there's some big social figures in town. Then Kendall started crying about how it was her dream venue and she'd die if she couldn't have it. Sounds familiar. The thing is, Marley continued, I've seen this behavior before. At every family gathering, every holiday, Kendall makes these grand plans, expects everyone else to make them happen, then plays victim when reality hits. And everyone enables her, I added. Not everyone. Marley touched my arm. Some of us see what's really going on. We just never had the courage to say anything. My phone buzzed again. Elliot this time. Found the perfect string quartet. When can you meet them? I should get back to the tour, I said, but Marley caught my hand. Wait, there's more. After the venue incident, Kendall and Virgil went to every high-end venue in town. They're blacklisted from 3 places now for throwing similar fits. I thought about the loan Kendall had demanded. She never had a venue, did she? She wanted the money first, planning to figure it out later. Exactly. Marley squeezed my hand. You did the right thing, saying no. Someone had to. April called from across the room. Sky, come look at these table arrangements. As I walked over, Marley called after me. By the way, I'm free to help with whatever you need. Some of us family members actually know how to show up without conditions. The rest of the afternoon flew by in a whirl of planning. By the time Elliot joined us for dinner at our favorite cafe, everything was falling into place. The venue's perfect, I told him over pasta. Simple, elegant, absolutely us. Unlike someone's Holland flower fantasy, April muttered. Elliot reached across the table for my hand. You seem lighter today, more certain. I am. I squeezed his hand. You know what Marley told me? Kendall never even had a venue. She was just counting on guilt-tripping the family into funding her impossible dreams. Speaking of family, April interrupted, showing us her phone. Kendall just posted on Instagram. Some people think they can overshadow your special day, but true love doesn't need showing off. I laughed, surprising myself. Let her post what she wants. We're creating something real here. And that, Elliot said, raising his wine glass, is exactly why I'm marrying you. As we clinked glasses, I felt a surge of certainty. This wedding wasn't about overshadowing anyone. It was about celebrating authentic love with people who genuinely cared. And if that celebration happened to expose some uncomfortable truths along the way, well, that was just an added bonus. The invitations look gorgeous, Elliot said, running his finger over the embossed lettering. We sat cross-legged on our living room floor, surrounded by stacks of cream-colored envelopes and response cards. Simple and elegant, I agreed, sealing another envelope, just like everything else. The doorbell rang. April burst in without waiting for an answer, waving her phone wildly. You need to see this. She thrust the phone at me. It was a screenshot of Kendall's private social media message to our cousin Rachel. Can you believe Skylar's trying to steal my thunder? She's even using my venue. She knew I wanted River Meadow Estate. But she never booked it, Elliot said, reading over my shoulder. She couldn't afford it. Oh, it gets better, April scrolled down. Rachel actually called her out. The response read, pretty sure you can't claim a venue you were kicked out of for throwing a tantrum. Maybe try being happy for your sister. Kendall must be losing it, I said, addressing another envelope. Rachel's always been her biggest supporter. My phone buzzed, Dad calling. I put it on speaker while continuing to work on the invitations. Skylar, we need to talk about this wedding. Hi, Dad, I'm good. Thanks for asking, I replied dryly. He sighed. Your mother and I are concerned about the timing. Kendall feels... Dad, stop. I set down my pen. Kendall doesn't get to dictate when Elliot and I get married. She doesn't even have a venue booked. She says you stole her venue. April snorted loudly. Put Mom on the phone, I said. I know she's there listening. A rustling sound, then Mom's voice. Skylar, why are you being so difficult? Marley, I said clearly, works at River Meadow Estate. She told me everything about Kendall's visit there. Would you like me to share those details? Silence. That's what I thought. I sealed another envelope. Your invitations are going out tomorrow. I hope you'll both be there. After hanging up, Elliot pulled me into a hug. You okay? Better than okay. I reached for another invitation. For the first time, I'm not letting them manipulate me. April's phone pinged. Her eyes widened. Guys? Kendall just posted something interesting. She showed us a photo of Kendall and Virgil holding hands on a beach, caption reading, Sometimes the universe has other plans. Surprise wedding in Mexico next month. Take that, haters. Mexico? Elliot frowned. How are they paying for that? My phone exploded with messages from family members. I opened the family group chat. Mom, Kendall, sweetie, what's this about Mexico? Kendall, Virgil's parents are helping. At least some family supports us. Aunt Linda, what about the venue deposits we all pitched in for? Kendall, change of plans. Sometimes you have to follow your heart. Uncle Rob, we each gave you $2,000 for deposits. I looked at April and Elliot. Did everyone except me give her money? Looks like it, April said, still scrolling. And now she's running off to Mexico instead? My phone rang again. Marley this time. Please tell me you're seeing this drama unfold, she said when I answered. Front row seats. Well, here's something not in the group chat. Virgil's parents were just at the estate asking about their son's upcoming wedding. They had no idea about Mexico. I put the phone on speaker. Say that again? They thought the wedding was still happening here. They knew nothing about Mexico. Also, Marley lowered her voice. They mentioned they already gave Kendall and Virgil a significant amount of money for the local wedding. April's jaw dropped. She's scamming both families. That's not all, Marley continued. Remember those venue deposits she collected? The estate never received any deposit from her, not one penny. Elliot shook his head. This is going to explode in her face. Maybe it should, I said quietly, looking at the elegant invitation in my hands. Maybe it's time everyone saw the truth. What are you thinking? April asked, recognizing my expression. I'm thinking, I picked up my phone, that it's time to make some calls, starting with Virgil's parents. As I dialed the number Marley provided, I felt no satisfaction, only sadness. This wasn't the revenge I'd planned, showing up my sister with a beautiful, modest wedding. This was karma doing its own work, and all I had to do was let the truth come to light. Hello, Mrs. Powell. We need to talk about your son's wedding, both of them. The cake tasting was interrupted by my mother's unexpected arrival at the bakery. I watched her hesitate at the door before walking toward our table, where Elliot and I sat surrounded by sample plates. Skylar. She stood awkwardly, clutching her purse. I was hoping we could talk. Elliot squeezed my hand under the table. I'll give you 2 a minute, he said, standing up. I need to make a call anyway. Once he left, Mom sat down, eyeing the cake samples. The vanilla bourbon looks nice. It's actually our favorite so far, I said, pushing the plate toward her. Try it. She took a small bite, closing her eyes. Oh, that is good. When she opened them again, there were tears forming. Honey, I don't know what to do. About? Kendall, the Mexico thing. Virgil's parents called me yesterday. I set down my fork. And? They're furious. Said something about double booking weddings and missing deposits? She dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. I don't understand what's happening with your sister anymore. Don't you? I kept my voice gentle. This isn't new behavior, Mom. It's just finally catching up to her. The bakery door chimed as another couple entered. Mom lowered her voice. The family's in chaos. Aunt Linda's threatening legal action over the deposit money. Uncle Rob's wife is calling Kendall a con artist on Facebook. And now Virgil's parents are saying they'll cut him off if he goes through with the Mexico wedding. What about the money they already gave them? Mom's face crumpled. Gone. Kendall says they spent it on wedding preparations, but can't show any receipts. And what do you think about that? Before she could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from April. Kendall just posted that she's being attacked by jealous family members who can't handle her happiness. Should I send screenshots to Virgil's parents? Don't, I texted back. They have enough evidence. I think, Mom said slowly, that I've been wrong about a lot of things. She reached across the table for my hand. Including you. The bakery owner approached with another sample. This is the lavender honey with buttercream. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I interrupting? Not at all, I smiled. Mom, want to help us choose our wedding cake? She squeezed my hand, tears flowing freely now. I'd love that. We spent the next hour tasting cakes and actually talking, really talking, for the first time in years. Mom admitted she'd enabled Kendall's behavior out of guilt over working so much during our childhood. I shared my frustration at always being cast as the villain for setting boundaries. As we were leaving, Mom stopped me. Skylar, about your wedding. I'd like to help, if you'll let me. Mom, not financially, she added quickly. I know you and Elliot have it handled. I mean with planning, organizing, whatever you need. My phone buzzed again. A group text from Marley to several family members. Just FYI, Kendall and Virgil were just here at the estate trying to book a last-minute wedding for next week. Manager turned them away. Next week? Mom read over my shoulder, looking confused. But what about Mexico? I think, I said gently, Kendall's running out of options. Right on cue, my phone lit up with a call from Kendall. I showed Mom the screen. "You should answer it," she said, "but put it on speaker." I did. "Hello? This is all your fault." Kendall was sobbing. "Everyone's turned against me because of you." "No, Kendall. Everyone's finally seeing the truth because of your own actions. You've always been jealous, always tried to make me look bad, and now you've turned Mom against me too." Mom leaned toward the phone. "Kendall, that's enough." "Mom?" Kendall's voice cracked. "What are you doing with her?" "I'm helping your sister plan her wedding, her real, honest, paid-for wedding." But I'm your baby. You're supposed to be on my side." "I am on your side," Mom said firmly. "Which is why I'm telling you, this needs to stop. No more schemes, no more manipulation, no more playing victim." The line went dead. Mom stared at the phone. That's the first time I've ever really stood up to her. How does it feel? Terrifying. Necessary. She hugged me suddenly. "I'm so sorry, Skylar, for everything." As we walked to our cars, Mom turned to me one last time. "Your wedding is going to be beautiful. Not because of fancy flowers or expensive venues, but because it's built on truth and love." I hugged her again, feeling something heal inside me. This wasn't the revenge I'd planned, but watching truth and consequences unfold naturally was somehow more satisfying than any scheme I could have devised. "The fairy lights look magical," April declared, standing back to admire our handiwork in the garden. The evening before my wedding, we were doing final preparations at River Meadow Estate, stringing lights along the pergola. "Incoming drama," Marley called from her position on the ladder. She pointed toward the parking lot, where Kendall's distinctive red sports car had just pulled up. "I've got this," Mom said, appearing beside me with surprising determination. She'd been helping with decorations all afternoon, making up for lost time with genuine effort. Kendall stormed across the lawn, Virgil trailing behind her looking uncomfortable. "So this is really happening tomorrow? You're really going through with this?" "Kendall," Mom intercepted her before she could reach me. "This isn't the time." "It's never the time, is it?" Kendall's voice rose. "Everyone's so busy fawning over Skylar's perfect little wedding that nobody cares that my life is falling apart." "Lower your voice," Mom warned. "You're at Skylar's venue. The venue that should have been mine. The venue you couldn't afford and threw a tantrum in," Marley called down from her ladder. April snickered while continuing to hang lanterns. "You," Kendall pointed at Marley, "need to stay out of family business." "I am family," Marley replied calmly. "I'm just not the part of the family that enables you." Virgil stepped forward, looking nervous. "Kendall, maybe we should go." "No, I want to know why everyone's suddenly turned against me. Why my own sister is trying to overshadow my special day." "What special day?" Mom's voice was steel. "The wedding you couldn't afford here? The fake Mexico wedding? Or the last-minute ceremony you tried to book after both of those fell through?" Kendall's face crumpled. "You don't understand. Virgil's parents cut us off. The family wants their deposits back. Everything's ruined." "Because you lied," I said quietly, finally speaking. "To everyone." "I didn't lie. I just got carried away." "Carried away?" Virgil looked at her sharply. "Is that what you call taking my parents' money and spending it on shopping sprees?" The garden went silent. Even the staff setting up chairs stopped to watch. "Virgil," Kendall hissed, "we talked about this." "No, you talked. I listened. Just like I listened when you said we'd pay everyone back. Just like I listened when you said Mexico was a real plan." He backed away from her. "I'm done listening." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying..." He took a deep breath. "I can't marry you, Kendall. Not like this. Not with all these lies." Kendall's face went white. "You can't do this to me." "Actually," he said, pulling off his engagement ring, "I can, and I am. I'll have my stuff out of the apartment by tomorrow night." As Virgil walked away, Kendall turned to me, eyes blazing. "This is your fault. You've ruined everything." "No, honey," Mom said softly. "You did that all on your own." Kendall burst into tears and ran toward her car. The sound of screeching tires filled the evening air as she peeled out of the parking lot. "Well," April said after a moment, "that was dramatic." "Should someone go after her?" I asked Mom. "No." Mom squeezed my hand. She needs to face consequences for once, real ones. She looked around at the half-decorated garden. Now, where were we with these lights? As we returned to work, Elliot arrived with coffee for everyone. Did I miss anything? Oh, just Kendall's engagement imploding and karma doing its thing. April grinned. Speaking of karma, Marley called down, you'll never guess who just RSVP'd yes to tomorrow's wedding. Who? Virgil's parents. They sent a note saying they want to support the responsible sister. I nearly dropped my string of lights. You're kidding. Nope. They also mentioned something about pressing charges against Kendall for fraud, but they didn't want that drama to overshadow your day. Elliot wrapped his arms around me from behind. You okay? I leaned back against him, watching our friends and family work together to create something beautiful. You know what? I really am. This isn't how I expected things to play out, but sometimes the universe has its own plans. He quoted Kendall's Mexico post with a smirk. Something like that. I turned to kiss him. Now help me hang these lights. We have a wedding to prepare for. As the sun set over River Meadow Estate, the garden transformed into a twinkling wonderland. Tomorrow, I would marry the man I loved, surrounded by people who valued truth and genuine relationships. And if my sister chose not to be among them, well, that was her choice to live with. The string quartet began playing Canon in D as the garden doors opened. I squeezed Dad's arm, taking in the scene before me. Fairy lights twinkling in the early evening light, white rose petals scattered along the natural aisle, and Elliot waiting under the flower-draped pergola. Ready, sweetheart? Dad whispered. More than ever. As we walked down the aisle, I caught glimpses of familiar faces. Mom in the front row, dabbing her eyes. April beaming from her maid of honor position. Marley giving me a subtle thumbs up from where she stood monitoring the event. Even Virgil's parents were there, sitting with dignity in their assigned seats. The only empty chair was Kendall's. Elliot's face glowed as I approached, and suddenly nothing else mattered. Not the family drama, not the empty chair, not the whispers about my sister's absence. Just us, our love, and this perfect moment. The ceremony was everything we'd planned. Simple, elegant, genuine. When we exchanged our handwritten vows, I heard Mom's distinct sob from the front row. As we sealed our marriage with a kiss, the garden erupted in authentic applause. The reception in the glass conservatory was in full swing when April grabbed my arm. Incoming, she whispered, nodding toward the entrance. Kendall stood there in a white dress that could easily be mistaken for a wedding gown. Oh, no, she didn't, Marley muttered, already moving to intercept. But Mom got there first. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I saw Mom firmly steering Kendall toward the ladies' room. Elliot squeezed my hand. Want me to run interference? No, I said. Let Mom handle it. 10 minutes later, Kendall emerged in a different dress, a simple blue cocktail number, with Mom beside her. They approached our table, Kendall looking subdued. Skylar, she said quietly. Can we talk? I nodded, following her to a quiet corner of the conservatory. The string quartet was playing softly, and through the glass walls the garden twinkled with fairy lights. I'm sorry, Kendall blurted out, for everything. Mom made me really look at what I've done, and she twisted her hands together. I've been awful. Yes, you have. The dress, showing up in white, that was my last desperate attempt to, I don't even know what. Mom had a backup dress ready, like she knew I'd pull something like this. She's finally stopped enabling you, I said gently. I know, and Virgil... She glanced across the room where he sat with his parents. He was right to leave. I've been lying to everyone, including myself. Before I could respond, Dad clinked his glass for toasts. Mom stood up first, her voice carrying across the room. When Skylar first told me about this wedding, I didn't understand. I thought she was being competitive, trying to overshadow her sister. Mom's eyes found mine. I was wrong. What Skylar and Elliot have created here tonight is a celebration of real love, responsibility, and truth. I've never been prouder of my daughter. Kendall's hand found mine. She's right. This is beautiful. Not because it's expensive or extravagant, but because it's real. The night flowed on. Elliot and I had our first dance under the stars visible through the glass ceiling. April's toast had everyone laughing. Dad cried during our father-daughter dance. Later, as Elliot and I swayed to a slow song, I saw Kendall approaching Virgil's table. Their conversation seemed civil, ending with a handshake rather than drama. Progress, Elliot murmured, following my gaze. Mom's talking about making Kendall go to therapy, I said. Actually talking about it, not just suggesting it. Good, that's... He was interrupted by the sound of glass clinking again. To everyone's surprise, Kendall stood up. I know I don't deserve to make a toast, she said, voice shaking. But I need to say something. Skylar, I've been jealous of you my whole life. Your stability, your success, your genuine relationships. I tried to compete by being louder, more dramatic, more demanding. But looking around tonight, I finally understand. Real love doesn't need all that. It just needs truth. She raised her glass. To my sister and her husband, thank you for showing me what real love looks like. The room raised their glasses, but I was already moving. I hugged my sister, feeling years of competition and resentment beginning to melt. This doesn't fix everything, I whispered. I know, she whispered back. But it's a start. As the evening wound down, Elliot and I stood in the garden one last time, taking in the twinkling lights and sweet flower scent. Happy? He asked. I thought about the perfect wedding we'd created, the family healing that had begun, and the sister who might finally be growing up. More than I ever imagined possible. I think that's the last of the thank you cards, I said, sealing the final envelope. Elliot and I sat at our usual cafe, the same one where we'd planned our wedding weeks ago. April slid into the seat across from us, dropping a folder on the table. Fresh from the printer, your wedding photos. As we flipped through them, each image captured the genuine joy of that evening. The twinkling lights, the intimate ceremony, the heartfelt celebrations. But it was the candid shots that caught my eye. Mom and Kendall's private conversation in the garden, Dad wiping tears during his toast, Virgil and his parents sharing a quiet moment. Speaking of family, Elliot said, checking his phone, your sister's latest Instagram post is different. I looked at the screenshot he showed me. Instead of her usual carefully staged photos, Kendall had posted a simple selfie at her therapist's office. First step of many. Time to face some hard truths. Personal growth, 4-year therapy. Well, that's new, April remarked. My phone buzzed. Mom calling. Hi, Mom. Skylar, are you free for lunch? Kendall's here and she has something she wants to discuss with you. I looked at Elliot, who nodded encouragingly. Sure, the usual place? 20 minutes later, I found Mom and Kendall at our family's favorite diner. Kendall looked different. Minimal makeup, simple clothes, none of her usual flash. I've been going through my finances with my therapist, she said after we ordered. The reality is, I'm in serious debt, but I'm finally ready to deal with it. Mom squeezed her hand. Tell her the rest. I'm selling my car, Kendall continued, and most of my designer stuff. I'm going to pay back everyone I took money from, the family, Virgil's parents, everyone. That's impressive, I said carefully. It's terrifying, she admitted, but necessary, and she pulled out an envelope. This is for you. It's not much, but it's the first installment on what I owe you for the art studio loan. Inside was a check for $200, small but symbolic. I'm also moving in with Mom and Dad temporarily, she added, to save money. My apartment lease is up next week anyway. How are you feeling about all this? I asked. Honestly, horrible, humbled, embarrassed. She stirred her coffee, but also relieved. It's exhausting, trying to maintain this perfect image all the time. Tell her about work, Mom prompted. I got a job at the community art center, teaching kids classes. The pay isn't great, but it's steady and I actually love it. My phone pinged. A message from Marley. Guess who just booked River Meadow Estate, Virgil, with his new girlfriend? Small ceremony, reasonable budget. Should I accidentally double book them? I showed Kendall the message, watching her reaction carefully. She surprised me by laughing. Good for him. He deserves someone who won't try to bankrupt him. Mom beamed at both of us. My girls, finally acting like adults. Most of the time, Kendall smiled. I still have my moments. Yesterday, I almost bought a $500 purse before remembering my new budget. But you didn't buy it, I pointed out. No, I didn't. Progress, right? Our food arrived, and as we ate, the conversation flowed naturally. Kendall talked about her therapy insights, Mom shared stories from her early marriage struggles, and I found myself actually enjoying my sister's company. You know what I realized? Kendall said suddenly. Your wedding was perfect because it was authentically you. I was trying so hard to create this fantasy that I lost sight of what a wedding is actually about. Love? Mom suggested. Reality, Kendall corrected. Real love, real relationships, real responsibility. As we finished lunch, Kendall hugged me tightly. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For not giving me that loan. For showing me there's another way to live. For being my sister, even when I was awful. Mom was crying again, but this time they were happy tears. Outside the diner, Elliot was waiting to pick me up. He waved to Kendall and Mom. Ready to go home? He asked as I got in the car. I watched my sister and mother walking to their car, heads close together in conversation, both trying in their own ways to build something better. You know what? I said. I think we all are. The revenge I'd initially planned, showing up my sister with a perfect wedding, had transformed into something far more meaningful, a catalyst for genuine change. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, but about showing someone a better path forward. And sometimes, just sometimes, they actually take it.
The reflection in my mirror showed dark circles under my eyes. But for once, I didn't care. Today wasn't about me. It was about Teresa's 7th birthday, and I'd be damned if I let anything ruin it. Even if that meant enduring 3 hours of Sophia's snide remarks about my quaint decorations and modest lifestyle. I'm Camila, and for the past 4 years, I've been raising my daughter alone, while my ex-husband Maximus plays occasional weekend dad between business trips and his new girlfriends. The birthday parties are always the worst. That's when his whole family descends like perfectly coiffed vultures, especially his sister Sophia. Mommy, is Aunt Sophia really coming? Teresa asked, peeking into my bedroom. Her princess dress sparkled in the morning light, and my heart melted at the sight of her gap-toothed smile. Yes, baby, but don't worry about her. Today is your special day. I adjusted her tiara, pushing aside thoughts of last year's disaster, when Sophia had commented loudly about how second-hand party supplies show such admirable resourcefulness. The doorbell rang at exactly 2 p.m. Sophia always arrived first, probably to get in her initial round of jabs before the other guests arrived. Camila, darling! She air-kissed both my cheeks, her designer perfume overwhelming my senses. This is different. Her eyes swept across the living room I'd spent hours decorating with an enchanted forest theme. Very DIY, though I suppose that's all the rage now among the budget-conscious. I forced a smile. Teresa helped design everything herself. Of course she did. Sophia's perfectly manicured hand waved dismissively. Though if you'd accepted Mom's offer to host at the country club, Teresa wanted the party at home. I cut her off, my voice steady despite the familiar anger bubbling up. The next hour was a blur of arriving guests, excited children, and carefully orchestrated games. I caught Quinn's supportive glance from across the room as she helped serve cake. She knew how much I was holding back. Oh my God, is that the same dress you wore to last year's Christmas dinner? Sophia's voice carried across the room as I was setting up the pin-the-tail game. I admire how you make things last. Several parents turned to look, and I felt my cheeks burn. But before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Miles. Meeting confirmed. Investors ready. This is it, Kay. I smiled, sliding the phone back into my pocket. Let Sophia have her moment. In 6 months, everything would be different. Mommy, can we do presents now? Teresa tugged at my sleeve, her eyes bright with excitement. Of course, sweetheart. I gathered everyone around the gift table, deliberately ignoring Sophia's theatrical sigh when she saw the modest pile of presents. Here's mine first, Sophia announced, producing an enormous box wrapped in designer paper. Every little girl deserves something special. Teresa's eyes widened as she unwrapped the latest gaming console, the one I'd told her we couldn't afford right now. I know your mom said no, Sophia stage whispered to Teresa, but Aunt Sophia knows what little girls really want. The room went quiet. I could feel Quinn tensing beside me, ready to intervene, but I touched her arm gently. "Thank you, Sophia," I said calmly. "That's very generous." "Well, someone has to be," she replied with a saccharine smile. "We can't all be satisfied with mediocrity." Later, as the last guests were leaving, I overheard Sophia on her phone in the hallway. "Daddy, what do you mean the meeting was canceled? The Singapore deal has to go through." "Daddy? Daddy!" She caught me watching and quickly composed herself, but I'd seen the flash of panic in her eyes. Something was wrong in the perfect Whitfield world, and suddenly, the text from Miles felt even more significant. That night, after tucking Teresa into bed with her new console, which I'd decided to let her keep, I wouldn't use my daughter as a pawn. I sat in my kitchen with a glass of wine and my laptop. The business plan Miles and I had been working on for months glowed on the screen. Our investors were ready, the patents were nearly approved, and timing, as they say, is everything. "Just you wait, Sophia," I whispered to my empty kitchen. "Just you wait." My phone lit up with another text from Miles. "You won't believe what I just heard about Whitfield Industries." I smiled, took a sip of wine, and clicked reply. The game was about to change, and for once, I had all the right cards. "The numbers look solid," Miles said, sliding the financial projections across his desk. "But there's something you need to know about the Whitfield situation." I leaned forward in my chair, remembering Sophia's panicked phone call at Teresa's party. "Tell me." "Their Singapore deal is falling apart. My contact in their legal department says Eugene's been making desperate moves, trying to cover massive losses." Miles lowered his voice. "They're on the verge of collapse, Camila." The irony wasn't lost on me. 4 years ago, when Maximus left, his family had made sure I walked away with nothing but my daughter and my dignity. Now their empire was crumbling. "What about our investment timeline?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "We could move forward now, but—" Miles hesitated. "If we wait 3 months, we might be able to acquire their distribution network for pennies on the dollar." My phone buzzed. A text from Teresa's school. "Mommy, I forgot my lunch. Can you bring it?" "I need to run," I told Miles. "Teresa forgot her lunch." He smiled knowingly. "Go. We'll finish this later." Driving to Teresa's school, my mind wandered to the day Maximus left. I'd been making lunch then, too. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for Teresa's preschool. "I can't do this anymore," he'd said, standing in our kitchen with a packed suitcase. "The pressure from my family, this modest life. I need more." "More than your daughter?" I'd asked, but he was already walking out the door. The school secretary smiled as I walked in with Teresa's lunch bag. "She's such a wonderful child," she said, "always helping the other kids." I found Teresa in the cafeteria, sitting alone. My heart clenched. "Baby, what's wrong?" I sat beside her. "Jenny said I can't sit with them because Aunt Sophia told her mom we're poor." Teresa's bottom lip trembled. "Are we poor, Mommy?" I pulled her close. "No, sweetheart, we have everything we need, and soon we'll have even more." But why does Aunt Sophia say those mean things?" "Some people think money makes them better than others," I explained. "But true wealth isn't in your wallet, it's in your heart." My phone buzzed again. This time it was Quinn. "You won't believe what I just overheard at the country club," she said, when I called her back in the car. "Sophia was arguing with her father about selling her house. Things must be worse than we thought." "How bad?" "Bad enough that she was crying in the bathroom about having to cancel her trip to Paris." I pulled into my office parking lot, thoughts racing. The satisfaction I'd expected to feel wasn't there. Instead, I felt an uncomfortable mix of vindication and pity. Back at my desk, I found an email from our patent attorney. "Final approval expected within 60 days. Proceed with investor meetings." My finger hovered over the reply button when Miles knocked on my door. "Eugene Whitfield is asking about selling their warehouse space," he said without preamble. "They're desperate for quick cash." "The same warehouse space we were planning to lease?" He nodded. "At triple our budget. But if we wait, we could buy it outright when they crash," I finished his thought. "Exactly. But Camila—" Miles sat down. "Are you sure you want to play this game? Revenge might feel good now, but this isn't about revenge, I interrupted. This is business. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Sophia. I showed Miles the message. He raised an eyebrow. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, another text came through. Please, it's about Teresa's trust fund. My hands clenched. The trust fund Maximus's family had promised Teresa, then conveniently lost in paperwork after the divorce. I should get back to work, Miles said, standing. Just remember who you are, Camila. Don't let them change that. After he left, I stared at Sophia's text. 4 years of snide comments, social humiliation, and watching my daughter cry because of their cruelty flashed through my mind. My phone buzzed one more time. A photo from Teresa. She'd drawn our family portrait in art class. Just the two of us, holding hands, with a rainbow above our heads. Love you, Mommy. I picked up my phone and typed a reply to Sophia. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., my office. The game was changing, but I needed to decide what winning really meant. As I looked at Teresa's drawing again, I realized this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about rewriting our future. Sophia was 15 minutes late to our meeting, but her usual confidence was missing when she walked into my office. Her designer clothes looked immaculate as always, but her eyes were rimmed red. Coffee? I offered, more out of habit than hospitality. No, She smoothed her skirt, sitting down. Thank you for meeting me. I waited, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. It's about Teresa's trust fund, she finally said. There's been a complication. You mean the trust fund that mysteriously vanished after Maximus left? I kept my voice neutral. The one your mother said must have been lost in the market crash? Sophia flinched. We never meant to. My phone rang. It was Teresa's school again. Ms. Fletcher, Teresa's running a fever. Could you come get her? I'll be right there. I stood up. We'll have to continue this another time. Wait! Sophia grabbed my arm. Please, Daddy's business. We're in trouble. Real trouble. And I know you're working on something big with Miles. I carefully removed her hand. I need to get my daughter. Your daughter? She laughed bitterly. She's my niece, Camila. Family. Despite everything. Family? I turned back. Where was family when Teresa needed her father? When your mother told everyone at church I was a gold digger? When you... My phone buzzed with a text from Quinn. Market rumors about Whitfield Industries getting worse. Stock down 30% today. Sophia's phone chimed at the same time. The color drained from her face as she read whatever message she'd received. I have to go, I said, grabbing my purse. Teresa needs me. That's just it, Sophia called after me. You always had what I never did. A child who actually needs you. I paused at the door. What? Daddy never needed me. Max never listened to me. Even Mother just uses me for social appearances. Tears spilled down her cheeks. But Teresa, she lights up when she sees you. Do you know what that's worth? Before I could respond, Miles burst in. Sorry to interrupt, but you both need to see this. He turned on the office TV. A business news anchor was mid-report. Sources confirm Whitfield Industries CEO Eugene Whitfield has taken an emergency leave of absence amid allegations of financial impropriety. Sophia collapsed into the chair, her perfectly manicured hands shaking as she pulled out her phone. Daddy's not answering. My phone buzzed again. Teresa's school wondering where I was. I have to go, I said firmly. Please, Sophia whispered. Help me understand what's happening. For a moment, I saw past the designer clothes and practiced superiority to the scared little girl beneath. But Teresa needed me. Miles will explain what he can. I have to get my daughter. In the car, Quinn called. Did you see the news? Are you okay? I'm fine. Just getting Teresa from school. And Sophia? Did she beg? I thought about the tears in Sophia's eyes. Something like that. Don't let her manipulate you, Quinn warned. Remember what she did at Max's wedding? I did remember. Sophia had made sure I wasn't invited, then sent me photos of Teresa dancing with her father and his new bride. At school, Teresa was curled up in the nurse's office, her cheeks flushed with fever. "Mommy," she mumbled as I gathered her in my arms. "Can we go home?" "Of course, baby." As I carried her to the car, my phone lit up with a message from Maximus, the first in months. "Is it true about Dad's company?" I ignored it. At home, after settling Teresa with medicine and her favorite cartoon, I checked my emails. The patent attorney had sent final approval documents. Our investors were ready to move, and Whitfield Industries stock had dropped another 15%. "Mommy?" Teresa called weakly from the couch. "Will you tell me a story?" I sat beside her, stroking her hair. "Once upon a time," I began, "there was a princess who thought she had everything." "Was she pretty like Aunt Sophia?" I paused. "She was beautiful on the outside, but she had to learn that true beauty comes from how you treat others." "Did she learn?" My phone buzzed with another text from Sophia. "I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm asking anyway." "I don't know yet, baby," I told Teresa. "The story isn't over." As Teresa drifted off to sleep, I thought about Sophia's tears, about revenge and karma, about the fine line between justice and cruelty. The power I'd dreamed of having was finally in my hands. The question was, what kind of ending did I want to write? The morning news was brutal. Eugene's face plastered across every business channel, the word fraud in bold letters beneath his photo. I turned off the TV when Teresa came down for breakfast. "Are you feeling better, sweetheart?" She nodded, climbing onto her chair. "Is Aunt Sophia okay? I saw her crying on TV." Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was Miles. "Turn on Channel 7, he said without greeting. "Eugene's wife is giving a statement." I waited until Teresa left for school before switching the TV back on. There stood Nora, Sophia's mother, her usual poise cracking as she faced the reporters. "My husband made some regrettable decisions," she said, her voice trembling. "But we're still a respectable family. These allegations are—" The feed cut to breaking news. Whitfield Industries announces mass layoffs. My office was chaos when I arrived. Miles was waiting by my door. 300 employees let go this morning," he said, following me inside. "Their warehouse is shutting down next week." "The same warehouse we were looking at?" He nodded. "It gets better. Guess who's been calling me all morning?" "Sophia?" "Their entire board of directors. They're practically begging for investors." He leaned forward. "We could buy the whole company for less than we were going to spend on that warehouse." My phone buzzed. A text from Quinn. "Have you seen this?" Attached was a social media post from Sophia's country club. "Due to unfortunate circumstances, the annual charity gala will no longer be hosted by the Whitfield family." Another text came through, this time from Maximus. "Tell Teresa I can't make it this weekend. Things are complicated right now." "Some things never change," I muttered. "What are you thinking?" Miles asked. Before I could answer, my assistant knocked. "Ms. Fletcher, Sophia's here. She doesn't have an appointment, but—" "Send her in." Sophia looked different. No designer bag, minimal makeup, hair pulled back simply. "Have you seen the news?" "Hard to miss," I replied. "Daddy's gone." Her voice cracked. "He left last night. No one knows where he is." Miles quietly excused himself, closing the door behind him. "Mother's a mess. Max won't answer my calls. Everything's falling apart." Sophia sank into a chair. "The press is camped outside my house. They're calling Daddy a thief." "Is he?" She looked up sharply. "Does it matter? We're still family. Are we?" I stood up. "When Maximus left, when I was struggling to keep a roof over Teresa's head, where was this family you're talking about?" "I know I was awful to you," she whispered. "I was jealous." "Jealous? Of what?" "You were free. Independent. I've never been either of those things." She wiped her eyes. "Even my trust fund was just another way for Daddy to control me." My phone buzzed again. An email from our investors. Ready to move on Whitfield acquisition. Require immediate response. I heard rumors about your business venture, Sophia said. The patents, the investors. You've done amazing things, Camilla, without any help. I had help, just not from your family. I know. She stood up. And I know I don't deserve anything from you. But I'm not asking for me. Mother, she's talking about selling the house Teresa visits Max in. When he bothers to show up, I couldn't help adding. Please, just think about it. For Teresa's sake. After she left, Miles returned. Well? I showed him the investor email. If we move now, we could take everything. But Teresa loves that house. Her few memories with her father are there. My phone lit up with a text from Teresa. Mommy, Jenny invited me to sit with her at lunch today. She said she doesn't care what anyone says about us. Miles watched me reading the message. You know, revenge might feel good for a moment. But what lesson does it teach Teresa? I thought about Sophia's tears, about Teresa's innocent joy at making a friend, about the fine line between justice and becoming what we hate. Call the investors, I said finally, but not about the acquisition. I have a different proposal in mind. You're sure? I nodded, picking up my phone to text Sophia. Meet me tomorrow. Bring your mother and your lawyer. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about being strong enough to help them when they fall, and making sure they remember who lifted them up. My phone buzzed one last time. Teresa had sent a heart emoji. That was all the confirmation I needed. The boutique's sales assistant raised her eyebrows as I tried on the third designer dress. This one's our most expensive piece, she said, probably expecting me to balk at the price. I'll take it, I said, smoothing the silk against my hips. The black dress cost more than my first car, but today wasn't about money. It was about making a statement. My phone buzzed, Miles confirming the meeting arrangements. In 2 hours, I'd face Sophia, Nora, and their lawyers in my office. But first, I had another stop to make. The mall's luxury wing felt different now. The same stores where Sophia used to parade her wealth, making subtle digs about my budget-conscious choices, now seemed less intimidating. I walked into the designer shoe store with my head high. Those are gorgeous, Quinn said, meeting me there. But are you sure about this meeting? Nora can be manipulative. So can I. I handed my credit card to the cashier. When I need to be. Back at the office, I changed into my new outfit. The woman in the mirror looked powerful, confident. Everything Sophia had tried to make me feel I wasn't. Miles knocked on my door. They're here. And Camila? He paused. Nice dress. They filed into the conference room like a funeral procession. Nora first, her face tight with forced dignity. Then Sophia, and finally their lawyer, clutching his briefcase like a shield. Thank you for coming, I said, taking my seat at the head of the table. Let's talk about the future of Whitfield Industries. Our family business is not up for discussion, Nora snapped. Mother, Sophia warned quietly. I opened my laptop. Actually, it is. Your husband left the country with most of your liquid assets. The company's stock is worthless. You're facing multiple lawsuits, and your warehouse employees are about to lose their jobs. And I suppose you're here to gloat? Nora's voice dripped with venom. No. I turned my laptop around. I'm here to offer a solution. Their lawyer leaned forward, adjusting his glasses. This is a restructuring proposal, I finished. My company will acquire 40% of Whitfield Industries. We'll inject enough capital to save the warehouse operations and settle the immediate lawsuits. 40%? Nora looked like she'd swallowed something sour. You want us to give you nearly half our company? I want to save your company, I corrected. And your house. Sophia's head snapped up. What? The house stays in the family trust. For Teresa. I met Nora's eyes. My daughter deserves to keep some connection to her father's family, don't you think? The room fell silent. I could almost see the calculations running behind Nora's eyes. Why would you help us? She finally asked. After everything. Because Teresa taught me something you never could. I stood up, smoothing my new dress. True power isn't in making others feel small. It's in choosing when to be big. My phone buzzed. Teresa's school appearing on the screen. I answered immediately, my heart jumping. Mommy! Teresa's excited voice came through. I got an A on my math test. That's wonderful, baby. I couldn't help smiling. We'll celebrate tonight, okay? When I looked up, Sophia was crying silently. Nora's facade had cracked, showing something that looked almost like shame. The papers are ready, I said, sliding folders across the table. You have until tomorrow to decide. I don't need until tomorrow, Sophia said suddenly. I'm in. Sophia! Nora protested. No, Mother. Look at her. Sophia gestured at me. Look at what she's built while we were busy tearing her down. I want to learn from that. My phone buzzed again. Quinn asking how it was going. I typed quickly. Better than expected. There are conditions, I said, turning back to them. The warehouse workers keep their jobs. The charity gala continues, but under new management, and Teresa's college fund is reinstated, with interest. You drive a hard bargain, their lawyer muttered, reviewing the papers. I learned from the best. I smiled at Nora. Didn't you always say business is business? As they left an hour later, papers signed, Sophia lingered behind. That dress, she said softly. It looks better on you than it ever did on me. I raised an eyebrow. I saw you buying it. It was mine, last season. She smiled sadly. But you wear it differently, like you don't need it to be strong. After they left, Miles brought in champagne. To the new partner of Whitfield Industries, he toasted. No, I corrected him, thinking of Teresa's excited voice, of Sophia's tears, of the long road ahead. To teaching our children better than we were taught. My phone lit up with a final text from Sophia. Thank you for being the bigger person, for showing me what that looks like. I didn't reply. Some lessons are better taught in silence. The warehouse was eerily quiet as I walked through with Sophia, our heels echoing on the concrete floor. 300 employees would return tomorrow, their jobs secure under the new agreement. I never came here before, Sophia admitted, running her finger along a dusty shelf. Daddy said it wasn't a place for family. Everything is a place for family when you're fighting to save it. My phone buzzed, Maximus calling. I declined it. He's been trying to reach me too, Sophia said, noticing, now that the press has caught wind of the restructuring deal. Of course he has. I checked my watch. The workers arrive in an hour. Are you ready? She straightened her blazer. A simple one, not designer. Do you think they'll hate us? They'll hate your father. You have a chance to show them something different. The warehouse doors opened, and Miles walked in with the union representative, Jack. Ms. Fletcher, Jack nodded to me, then turned coldly to Sophia. Ms. Whitfield. Please, she stepped forward. Call me Sophia. I know you have every reason to distrust my family, but... Save it, he cut her off. 300 families almost lost everything because of your father's greed. And now 300 families get to keep their jobs, I interjected, because his daughter chose to do better. My phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Teresa. Mommy, when is Dad coming to get me this weekend? I showed the message to Sophia, whose face fell. He's in Dubai, she said quietly, trying to secure investors for his new venture. Of course he is, I typed back to Teresa. How about we have a girls' weekend instead? Jack cleared his throat. The workers will want guarantees, real ones, not just promises from another Whitfield. Show them, I told Sophia. She pulled out a folder. These are the new contracts, guaranteed employment for 2 years, with improved benefits and profit sharing. She handed them to Jack. And I'll be working here 3 days a week, learning the operation from the ground up. You? Jack couldn't hide his surprise. In the warehouse? I need to understand what my father never did. That a company is its people, not its profit margins. My phone lit up with a news alert. Whitfield Air Partners with ex-sister-in-law to save family business. They're here, Miles called from the door. A crowd of workers was gathering outside. "Ready?" I asked Sophia. She squared her shoulders. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." The workers filed in, faces guarded, some angry, others afraid. Sophia stepped forward. "4 days ago, I had never set foot in this warehouse," she began. "I was too busy buying designer clothes and planning charity galas to care about the people who made our family's wealth possible." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "My father betrayed your trust. He betrayed all of us. But today, thanks to Camila, we have a chance to rebuild. Not just the company, but our community." "Why should we believe you?" someone called out. "Because unlike my father, I'm not asking for your trust." Sophia's voice carried clearly. "I'm asking for a chance to earn it. Starting today, I'll be working alongside you, learning from you." My phone buzzed with a text from Nora. "The press is asking for a statement about Maximus abandoning his daughter again." I ignored it, watching Sophia connect with the workers, one conversation at a time. She was different now, humbled but determined. Jack approached me. "This is real? She's really going to work here?" "Watch her," I replied. "She's not her father." By afternoon, the warehouse was humming with activity. Sophia had ditched her blazer, helping to inventory stock with a team of workers who'd gradually warmed to her genuine interest in their work. "Why did you do it?" she asked during a quiet moment. "You could have taken everything, destroyed us completely." "Because Teresa's watching," I said simply, "and she needs to see that strength isn't about crushing others. It's about lifting them up when they fall." My phone chimed with another text from Teresa. "Jenny asked if I can sleep over tonight. Can I?" As I typed my reply, Sophia touched my arm. "Thank you, not just for saving the company, but for showing me what real power looks like. Just remember this feeling," I told her, "next time you're tempted to look down on someone." The warehouse doors opened again as another shift of workers arrived. Sophia straightened up, ready to introduce herself, to prove herself, to be better than the name she carried. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's showing your enemies a better way to be. "Daddy's back," Teresa announced at breakfast, showing me her phone. "He wants to have dinner with us tonight." I nearly choked on my coffee. After 6 weeks of silence, now he appears? "Did Aunt Sophia tell him about the company?" Teresa asked innocently. "Probably, sweetheart." I stroked her hair. "Do you want to see him?" Before she could answer, my phone rang. Sophia. "He's trying to muscle his way back in," she said without preamble. "Max is at Mother's house right now, talking about his rightful place in the company." "Of course he is." I watched Teresa finish her cereal. "How's Nora taking it?" "She told him to leave." Sophia's voice held a hint of pride. "Said he abandoned his family when we needed him, and now he doesn't get to come back just because we're stable again." My phone beeped with another call. "Maximus." "He's calling me now," I told Sophia. "Don't answer. Come to the warehouse instead. There's something you need to see." An hour later, I walked into a transformed warehouse. Gone were the dusty shelves and dim lighting. The space was bright, organized, and humming with energy. Sophia stood with a group of workers, reviewing shipping schedules. She'd traded her designer wardrobe for practical work clothes, her perfectly manicured nails now short and practical. "Show her," she told the workers excitedly. They led me to a new section of the warehouse. "The Teresa Project," read a sign above rows of carefully packaged educational supplies. "We're partnering with local schools," Sophia explained, "providing supplies to underprivileged students." The workers came up with the idea. "And named it after Teresa?" I felt tears threatening. "She inspired it. After everything you've taught me about what really matters." My phone buzzed again. "Maximus." "Answer it," Sophia said. "It's time." I stepped outside and picked up. "Hello, Max." "Camila, baby, we need to talk." His voice oozed charm. "About the company, about us, about starting fresh." "There is no us, Max. There hasn't been since you walked out 4 years ago." "Don't be like that. I've changed. And with the company's new direction." You mean the direction your sister and I created while you were hiding in Dubai? He paused. I have rights. I'm still a Whitfield. No, I said firmly. You're just a man who abandoned his daughter, and now that she's older, smarter, and surrounded by strong women who actually show up for her, you don't get to waltz back in. I want to see Teresa. That's her choice. But the company? That's mine and Sophia's. I hung up and went back inside. Sophia was watching me. He'll try the lawyers next, she said. Let him. I gestured at the warehouse. We've built something real here, something honest. My phone lit up with a text from Teresa. Can I have dinner with Dad and Aunt Sophia? I want him to see the warehouse. I showed Sophia the message. Smart girl, she smiled. Wants him to see what he missed out on. That evening, I watched from my office window as Teresa proudly showed Maximus around the warehouse. His expensive suit looked out of place among the workers and shipping crates. Sophia stood nearby, no longer the polished socialite, but a respected leader who knew every worker by name. My phone buzzed. Quinn calling. How's it going? She asked. Teresa's showing Max the warehouse. He looks lost. Good. Let him see what real strength looks like. Through the window, I saw Teresa pointing out her namesake project to Max. His face fell as she explained how it helped kids who couldn't afford school supplies. Remember when you said we were too poor for new notebooks? I heard her ask him as they passed below my window. Now we help other kids get them instead. Sophia caught my eye through the window and nodded. We'd done this, transformed a family legacy of greed into something meaningful. My phone chimed with an email from our lawyers. Mr. Whitfield's attorneys requesting board meeting. Delete it, I told my assistant, and send them our new company charter instead, the one that requires board members to work in the warehouse 1 day a month. Later, as Teresa and I drove home, she was quiet. You okay, baby? I asked. Dad seemed different, she said thoughtfully. Smaller somehow. Sometimes people who seem big only look that way because they stand on others. Real strength comes from lifting people up. Like you and Aunt Sophia do? I smiled. Exactly like that. My phone lit up one last time. A message from Sophia. Thank you for showing me how to be bigger than my name. Sometimes the biggest victories aren't won through force, but through grace. And sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, standing tall, and showing others how to rise. The autumn breeze carried the sound of laughter from the warehouse courtyard, where employees and their families gathered for the first annual company picnic. Teresa darted between tables, proudly showing off the new playground equipment her project had funded for the workers' children. Who would have thought? Sophia handed me a coffee, watching the scene. A Whitfield family gathering where no one's wearing designer labels or comparing stock portfolios. Mother's still struggling with the concept, she added, nodding toward Nora, who sat somewhat stiffly at a table with warehouse workers' families, actually listening to their stories. My phone buzzed. Maximus again. I declined the call. He's persistent, Sophia noted. He's predictable, I corrected. The company's stock tripled since the restructuring. Of course he wants back in. Teresa ran up, breathless with excitement. Mom, come see what Jenny's dad made. She pulled me toward a display where Jack, our union representative, stood proudly beside rows of handcrafted wooden toys. The workers started a side project, Sophia explained, following us. They're making toys for children's hospitals, using their breaks and staying after shifts. Their choice, Jack added quickly. No overtime required. But why? I asked. Because you and Sophia showed us what good leadership looks like, he said simply. It's contagious. My phone lit up with a text from Quinn. Have you seen the Business Journal article? I pulled it up. Whitfield Industries revolutionizes corporate culture, a story of redemption and female leadership. They got it wrong, Sophia said, reading over my shoulder. It's not about female leadership. It's about human leadership. Teresa tugged my sleeve. Dad's here. Sure enough, Maximus stood at the entrance, looking uncomfortable in his casual attempt at casual clothes. Probably still designer, just less obvious. I'll handle this, Sophia started forward, but I stopped her. No, let Teresa handle it. We watched as Teresa walked to her father, head high, shoulders back, looking so much stronger than her 7 years. You can join us, she told him, loud enough for nearby workers to hear. But not in a suit, not as a boss, and not pretending you were here all along. Maximus glanced around, noticing the workers watching. Sweetheart, I'm still your father. I have rights. Rights? Teresa's voice carried clearly. Like the right to miss my birthdays? To cancel weekends? To make mom cry? I started forward, but Sophia held me back. She needs this, she whispered. You can stay, Teresa continued, but only if you're ready to be different. Like Aunt Sophia learned to be different. Like Mom taught us to be. The courtyard had fallen silent. Even Nora was watching, something like respect flickering across her face. Maximus looked at me, then at Sophia, then back at his daughter. For once, his practiced charm failed him. I don't know how, he admitted. Start by listening, Teresa said. That's what Aunt Sophia did. Start by caring about people more than money. That's what Mom taught her. My phone buzzed with a message from Miles. Board meeting in 20. Bringing the new community initiative proposals. I need to go, I told Sophia. Board meeting. Take Teresa, she said. She should see this part too. What about? I nodded toward Maximus. I'll handle my brother, she smiled. I've learned from the best how to be firm with kindness. In the boardroom, Teresa sat beside me as we reviewed proposals for expanding the education initiative. Her input was surprisingly insightful. We should ask the kids what they need, she suggested, like you asked the workers what they needed. My phone lit up with a photo from Sophia. Maximus in the warehouse, tie removed, sleeves rolled up, actually listening to Jack explain the toy-making project. Think he'll change? I texted back. Doesn't matter, came her reply. We already did. After the meeting, Teresa and I walked back to the courtyard. The party was winding down, but the sense of community lingered. Workers' children played on the new equipment while their parents chatted with Sophia, Nora, and yes, even Maximus, who looked slightly less polished but somehow more real. Mom? Teresa squeezed my hand. Are we rich now? I looked around at the happy faces, the sense of purpose, the bridges built from the ashes of revenge. We're wealthy, I corrected, but not because of money. My phone chimed one last time, a message from an employee's child. Thank you for my new school books. Now I can be smart like Teresa. Sometimes the best endings aren't about winning or losing. They're about transforming the battlefield into common ground, where everyone has a chance to become better than they were. And sometimes the greatest victory is watching your child teach others the lessons you fought so hard to learn.